Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1544, and I'm with my wife Meredith.
Hello.
Yes. So today's podcast is titled Life Lessons with Freddie, Let Today Be Enough. Yes. So if you're not familiar with who Freddie is, you can go to Instagram, and actually we have hashtags. You can just do the search for the hashtag Life Lessons with Freddie.
Yes.
And you'll see, I think there's like 30-some posts.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, at least 30-some. And Freddie was actually a cat that came with our house. So we bought the house, and he was an outside cat. We fed him, and he turned into being a best buddy.
He is a best buddy.
Awesome.
He was a best buddy.
Yeah. Yes, so Freddie, unfortunately, passed away on Christmas.
On Christmas night.
Yeah, so that was a super big bummer.
Yeah.
But it actually worked out to where you had gotten me a photo that you got from one of our Life Lessons with Freddie posts from Instagram.
Yeah.
You snagged a photo and actually had it made and framed, and it looks great. It's on canvas. And it has labeled it Best Buddies, because we were best buddies.
You were best buddies.
Yeah. So he actually got me that and presented it to me on Christmas Day, not knowing that unfortunately later in Christmas Day, Freddie would pass away.
My heart.
Yeah, crazy timing.
I know.
Ugh. But Freddie, the reason why he meant so much to me was whenever I was dealing with anxiety for the first time in my life, it was like very debilitating. And I didn't know what to do or how to manage it, and I would sit with Freddie. Yeah. So I would snuggle with him if I came home from work. Freddie was actually a blind cat.
He was very calming.
Yes. So he's a blind cat, and when he would hear your car come in the driveway, he would like run over to the car.
Yeah.
And for a
As
blind,
a blind cat
to
run to a vehicle.
It's like, how do you dare not spend time and snuggle like that, you know? So we used to snuggle and everything, and it was just a really good reflection time. So I used to think a lot about life, and it was a very calming presence, as you said. So even though he's a wild cat, he loved being snuggled.
Yeah, he never cried or hissed or scratched or...
No. Even when we took him to the vet, he never tried to bite anybody. He never got aggressive.
He would just sit on your lap and stay there until he was done. And it could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour, or it could be... It's just, he just liked to be petted and snuggle you and nuzzle his little face into your hands or your foot.
Yes, yeah.
And
yes, if you tried to leave, he'd wrap his paws around your feet.
And then when Rob and I got together and we'd sit with him outside, because then, too, he became my buddy when I lost my job opportunity, March of 2020, and I gave myself a weekend to be angry at the universe, and then I got my ish together and was like, I'm going to come out of this for the better. And a lot of those days we'd sit outside with Freddie on the porch, and he had to then touch both of us at the same time.
Yes, he would.
So you have a lot of photos of Freddie like straddling between Rob and me. Like he'd have to have one paw on my leg and one paw on Rob's.
Yes.
And like he wasn't. If I moved, he'd like move his paw and feel me. And I think he just had to know that we were both there.
Yeah, it was very comforting for him.
And it was those moments where it was like, you have to. One of the stop and smell the roses kind of moments, you know.
I think you and I naturally have we're very on the go. We very, very rarely do we ever slow down. And that was something that was really nice, was Freddie, he forced you to slow down in order to enjoy him. And he was so loving that you had to enjoy him. You know, like we would come home, and one of the things I loved is, like, I did know Freddie before I knew you.
Oh, yeah.
And what I thought was amazing was, whenever you and I were first dating, I was like, if we come home and we're in a rush, I have to pet that cat. Like, I just can't.
Totally fine, of course.
And you were like, of course, like, duh.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, good, hallelujah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was, it was very nice to have Freddie for that time for me, because I was alone during that time trying to figure out how to manage that, and he was my best bud. Yeah. And to have lost him at Christmas, it was a big heartbreaker, but I appreciate you wanting to join with me and do a podcast about it.
Oh, yes.
And one thing that...
I mean, he felt like he was mine, and I always say thank you for sharing him, but he was...
you.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I used to, I referred to Meredith as the pretty lady. So, yes. So I would be like...
the blind cat.
Yeah, we would get home, And he used to come to my door, and now the cat would walk purposely around the car past me to get to the pretty lady's side.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't blame him, but come on, man.
Yeah, then he was my buddy for
so he's like, I'm going to go
got snuggles.
Get snuggles with that pretty lady. Yeah, so he very much loved you, and he embraced you.
Oh, yeah.
Completely, yes. Yeah. And one of the kind of the lesson that I'm working through with his passing, and we've talked about this a little bit, is to let today be enough.
Yeah.
And really, we've been going pretty crazy, pretty busy, and I had planned to spend time with Freddie Christmas, evening.
Yeah, both did.
Christmas evening.
Yeah.
And I had planned for it, did a whole bunch of things, and then when I went out to grab him and snuggle him, unfortunately, he had already passed away. And that immediately came to mind as, what was I doing yesterday? Why didn't I take time the day before?
So if you don't know this about Rob, or really about us, because we're the same person, if you haven't picked that up in our podcast, is that we beat ourselves up for just about everything. Yeah. I say all the time, we're our own worst critic, right? We always wonder what could have been done better, what should have been done better, what should have been done more. Always... I mean, that it's almost like beyond type A.
Yeah, we have a problem.
We should maybe seek help about it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
But I do have a sign up in our office that says, "Let whatever you do today be enough." And I did have that before I met Rob. And so this last week was hard because it was coming to grips with that. We did get him cremated, and he's sitting with us.
Yep, so he's with us now.
But we talked about, so it's funny when you try to help someone through something that you've been through. Oh yeah, we were talking about that. What you've been through, but also, what would I want to hear? It was appropriate because we had to move that sign to make a spot for Freddie. Yeah. Because that was on the very top shelf where I was like, I'm going to see it every day because you can't do everything. You can't talk to everybody. You can't text everybody. You can't call everybody. You can't do everything in a day. You just can't do it. My dad always used to say, you're burning the candle at both ends, or you're always burning the candle at both ends. And there's a whole other topic there. But I had to work really, really hard to give myself the grace to say, I did what I could today. Given everything I knew, given everything that was going on, given how I felt, I did everything I could today. And I know when I go to bed at night, I did the best I could. And whatever I did that day had to be enough. It had to, otherwise you go down a rabbit hole. Yeah. And that's what was happening. Yeah. Was Rob kept thinking he needed to do more, or he should have snuggled him more, or should have known. And it was it's heartbreaking for me to watch that, and the only thing I could relate to was what I went through with my dad. Yeah. Now, with that, it's interesting because, I don't know, if you're listening to this podcast still, and you didn't switch gears, maybe you feel like an animal is a family member.
Yeah,
right?
To a lot of people.
To a lot of people. They are family members.
Definitely
hands down. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, the only thing I could compare it to was losing my father, and I dealt with a lot of guilt that I didn't do enough up until and up until when he passed away. And that anniversary is coming up pretty soon, actually. But I was, for a long time, just in a bad place mentally, or I tried to shove it in a little box in my mind and not deal with it until I was ready to deal with it. Yeah. And because of that, because I had to tell myself I did what I had to do when I needed to do it, and I was, protecting myself from some things, and you just, I couldn't beat myself up. Yeah. And so the only thing I knew to tell Rob was to not beat yourself up because you didn't know. And maybe some of you are going through that. Holidays are hard for a lot of people, and I think the older we get, the harder it is for more and more people that we know, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But that was just something that we said, okay, after going through this over over Christmas, into the new year was we have to take away whatever we're doing today to let that be enough and know we have the best intention and we can't always do everything. It's literally impossible.
Yeah, and that's something I think, like you and I both experience, and I know a lot of people do, and especially in a job in which you like service, like you work with people.
Yeah.
Is there's thankfully there's more people than I have time for every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a very challenging thing: is who do I give time to today?
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about it in podcasts all the time about people priority lists,
Mm-hmm.
and how like it's God, you, me, parents. I go through the list,
Mm-hmm.
and I make sure that I give the best I can to make sure the people highest on the list, the most love, they get the most attention, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very challenging because at the end of every day, you could, if you wanted to, sit back and look and say, maybe I could have done this, maybe I could have done that, maybe I could have done that. It's endless. And you just sit there and analyze and analyze and analyze. And to some degree, I want to do it because I want to improve how I manage people in workload in life. But there definitely has to be a limit to...
You want to do what?
Like, you want to analyze it a little bit.
Mm.
So that way I can see if there's ways I can improve.
Sure.
But there does have to be an end to it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying is like, let today be enough is once I've thought it through, then it's done. So I can't say, I wish 2 days ago I would have done this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't go back and wish something different.
Yeah.
When that day's done, it was done.
It's done and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's that fine balance of knowing yourself but giving yourself grace.
Yeah. True.
You have to like walk on the edge of that to really be okay with,
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do today.
And it is hard, especially if you want to make continued improvement, you do have to analyze what you do and try to find, not fault, but try to find ways to improve. And then it's like, well, where do you stop that? That's like,
don't get us started. Yeah,
exactly.
There's a rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. And that's something though, like thinking through the memories with Freddie and things in the past is let today be enough. Is also thinking into the future. We've talked about how for everyone, I think coming out of 2020, we've all still had a crazy couple of years, and the thought of a whole nother year coming for some people can be very scary, very daunting.
Gives me anxiety.
Absolutely, it can be very anxiety because you don't know what's coming this year. Like, is this going to be better? Is this going to be different? Is it going to be worse? Like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And thinking of it as an entire year at one go is extremely overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Anxiety provoking.
Yes.
So one day at a time, which is hard, but necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, a good lesson kind of to learn from Freddie's experience is let today be enough is also thinking into the future. Is I can only take care of today. Let me just do the best I can with today. I'll deal with tomorrow, like tomorrow's stress tomorrow. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is something that even though Freddie has passed, I'm still learning from him. And I think that's a really cool lesson to have now to carry forward.
Yeah. I mean, I remember doing a post. Freddie was at my feet. We were going somewhere, and he walked up and sat on my feet. And I was like, well, wherever we're going, we're going to be late because I'm not kicking him off my feet.
Exactly, yeah.
And I took a picture, and I posted it on my Instagram.
Yes, you did. You had a couple Freddie life lessons.
The summer of 2020. So after the job loss, before the stroke.
Yes.
And I remember just sitting there, and I was like, you know what? I don't stop enough. Like, I don't. So Freddie was, in his little Freddie way, saying, you need to chill out, you need to stop, you need to relax, you need to enjoy the moment. And I posted that, and I remember I did talk to my mom that week, and it was like 2 weeks later she had her stroke.
Yeah, wow.
I didn't talk to her the night before she had her stroke, and I had to give myself grace where I should have called. I should have called and checked in and see how she was doing, because she was having the stroke that night, which I found out later in rehab, when she was in rehab. But she was having the stroke that night and brushed it off. She lived alone, still lives alone. Brushed it off, went to bed, woke up, and then when she went to do laundry, collapsed and had to pull herself to the phone. And I for a long time, I was like, I should have called, because if she told me what was going on and I asked how she was doing, I should have been making sure she was taking her blood pressure medication. Should have. And, I had someone once told me, you're shitting all over yourself.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
stop it.
Yeah.
And so even then, I was like, well, okay, there's a plan. I did the best I could that day. I still try to talk to as many people as I can in a week. At some point, you just you can't talk to everyone. You just can't. But it was that little moment with Freddie where I was like, okay, I had the self-awareness to say I should pause more often, call and check in. And I think we probably even FaceTimed my mom together at that week. But yeah, I mean, lots of, even for me, life lessons with Freddie.
Yeah, he was a real good dude. Like, I always thought it was funny because, like, he helped me see the world even though he was blind. You know, so it really helped change my perspective of things and really helped calm me down. Mm-hmm. And it was a big, big blessing. A very big blessing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that we both got to share him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was huge.
Yeah, because I could have I could have remorse too, and I'm working so hard on so many things, and it's that priority list that we talk about. Mm-hmm. But it's like, so going into the new year, well, now that we're here, I need to work on a new priority list.
Well, it definitely can be like, let me take another glance at this, let me organize my thoughts given the new year.
Yeah.
But then also, once you have it set, forgive yourself for the things that are on the bottom of the list that don't get done.
Because there are people I know firsthand that it's like they get stuck there and they never leave that sorrow or that guilt, or and it's really hard to watch. I had to go through it myself, but I knew I didn't want to be a person where I either didn't face it head on, or I didn't come to terms with it, or I didn't, give myself grace for things. And it's really hard to do. It can get ugly and messy to work through it, but I also feel like I went through that to help you through this.
Well, it was definitely helpful. I mean, having each other is extremely helpful, especially considering that we understand what each other is thinking and feeling, and then therefore we know what type of advice to give because we know what we would want to hear.
Or I just say, I've got nothing for you because I know nothing can help me. I'm just going to let you. It'll be.
It's like we'll just sit together.
Yeah. Yes. Like our vows.
Yeah,
we'll just sit in the rain.
Yeah, sit in the rain together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, and it's oddly timely for when it happened.
Yes. Yeah. And it was, well, it's just one of those things that you never think the day's coming, you never want the day to come. But I was very blessed that I had the time with him when I had time with him, and I'm blessed that I have you to help me in this time now. So it's so I'm really thankful to Freddie, and I'm thankful to you. So
yes. So your big takeaway for everyone listening is
gonna be the let today be enough.
Yeah.
To where when something happens, like for example, if somebody passes away, don't beat yourself up for what you did last week, or the week before, or what could have been, or this or that. When something bad happens, you can't change it. It happened. So on each day, do the best you can. Then at the end of the day, tell yourself, I've done enough, and I'm moving on from this day. So I've kind of closed this day off, if that makes sense. So at the end of each day, you end it and you say, I did the best I could this day. I'm done. I'm not going to question this one. It's over. And then that, I think, is super helpful for me. And then also going forward is knowing I only have to do one day at a time. Let today be enough is I don't have to do so much today to make up for something coming in next month.
That's why I have my coffee mug.
Oh, yeah.
That says one day at a time.
Yeah, one day at a time.
Like that reminder. It's just one day at a time. You get through today. Today's a new day. Tomorrow's a totally different day.
Yeah.
Take it one step at a time.
Yeah. So I think that's something that was like a nice lesson from Freddie.
Yeah.
Is to forgive myself and just recognize that there's nothing actually to forgive. Like,
exactly.
You did each day the best you could.
Exactly.
And I enjoy the time I had with him. Enjoy that memory, all those memories. I hope that he had a nice, loving time because for being an outside cat, he probably never would have gotten snuggles. So we both benefited.
Yeah. You're destined to be together. And, another thing was goodness he was on the property and not, hit by a car somewhere. Or,
yeah, we actually got to have him with us.
Yeah, we have him. So lots of trying to find the positives in bad situations is very, very, very challenging.
Very challenging, yes.
But it is something I try to work on and force myself to do. Because otherwise you're just a bitter person.
Or you're just sitting there like, I could have done this, could have done that, could have done this, but you can't. It's all done. It's all gone.
It's done,
Those moments are gone. You can't do anything. Yep. So you're just sitting there freaking out, crazy stress, anxiety, all that, and then nothing's going to come from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it actually shuts down future actions.
Right.
So, because you're paralyzed by the anxiety, and therefore you're not actually doing anything better in the future.
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Similar. Yeah, so we did want to do the podcast together. We had to give it a little bit of time because otherwise it would be so emotionally charged. Yeah. I initially was going to be on the podcast for backup in case he just started sobbing.
Yeah.
Like, I got you. But same,
Yeah.
It's very meaningful. So I don't know when we'll have another pet.
Yeah.
And it
not soon.
Not soon, but it'd be very hard to beat that little guy.
Yeah.
Beat those snuggles.
Yeah.
But he was good, and definitely taught us a lot. So those hashtags are really neat if you do find that on Instagram. Life Lessons with Freddie. Because it's true.
I think I might recirculate them a little bit.
Yeah, that's
like
a good idea.
Celebrate them a little.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I was saying, we did want to talk about it because it is very appropriate going into the new year now that we are in the new year. Depending on the goals you set for yourself, if you are setting any, sometimes the goal is not setting one, right? So that could be a win, is not setting an intention for yourself or not. But if you are someone that's setting them, that for what it's worth, let whatever you do today be enough. Could be something to keep in mind for the year.
Absolutely, it can help a lot because a lot of times people do think too far ahead, and that can really be debilitating. So just taking one day at a time and take each day, do your best you can. At the end of the day, reflect on it, and then cap it, close it, be done. You can't open that back up. There's no what ifs, a week later. So you take each day at a time, and you let it be enough at the end of the day.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Well, there you go. So that's our final life lesson from Freddie. But who knows? I might think of some more along the way, more reflections with him. But thank you for listening, and I do hope that there was something in there of value. And if you have any struggles or have any challenges or troubles, let us know. Or email us brutalirongym@gmail.com. Okay? Well, if you like our podcast, please share it. The more people you share it with, the more people we can help. If you do share it, let people know that we answer questions for free. So anything they want to know, we'll make a podcast for them. And then thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. The podcast does have host costs every year. I give an hour to it every day, and we're going to keep it for free. You can donate on our website at www.brutalirongym.com. And then if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. I post on Instagram every day, a lot on YouTube, so check us out on both of those places. And then if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything you want to know, let us know at our email, brutalirongym@gmail.com. Thank you for being here, Meredith.
Thank you.
Yes. And then as always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.